So I have had multiple people request, some nicer than others, that I talk about Dillon Brooks, especially given that I have been pretty adamant in this offseason that the contract that the Rockets gave him was a mistake. And not only that, I kind of doubled down on that to a significant degree, where I've also suggested that this could be Dillon Brooks' last contract in the NBA in its entirety. Now, before we go over the amazing season that Dillon has been having thus far, because he has been playing very, very well, I do want to talk about why I've had that perspective about him. Hello everybody, welcome to Also SD Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Now, I've made it no secret that I am not a fan of Dillon's personality, and I'm not exactly unique in that, but the reason why I genuinely did not believe, and I'm not fully out of this territory yet, even though he has played well, the reason I have felt this way about Dillon outside of his annoying antics is more so that I don't think his archetype of player is one that typically sticks around in the NBA, especially with Dillon's tendencies. There's people who've compared him to like Andre Roberson, for example, where it's like, well, he's a really good defender, his offense is bad. However, this is Andre Roberson plus Andre taking a bunch of bad shots in any given game, like up to like 6 or 7 of them. So obviously, given that Andre fell out of the league, although injuries were a part of that, I don't really feel like the super good defender but really net negative offensive player. I don't think that player actually sticks around in the league all that much anymore, not just because offense is more important than ever before, but also I just don't think you get to be that highly specialized in the NBA anymore as you maybe could have in the past. Now, with that said, Dillon Brooks has been awesome this year for Houston over this 6-game sample size. He is averaging 18 points on the season, 1.6 steals, 2.4 assists, 4.4 rebounds. He is shooting 60% from the field, 60% from 3, and 93% from the free throw line. And he's also taking about 4 3-pointers a game. Now, given that, obviously it's pretty unrealistic to expect Dillon to shoot 60% from 3 on the season. That would be pretty record setting, nor do we expect him to shoot 60% from the field. However, what does stand out as encouraging and something that could potentially actually keep Dillon in the league for many years to come is that he has seemingly cut out this mid-range habit. Also, I said it was 6 games, it's actually 5, but over those 5 games, he has taken 7 mid-range shots in total, and 3 of them were catch and shoots, and he hit those, and 4 of them were off of the dribble shots. Now, 1 off of the dribble pull-up per game, I still don't think he should take any, but it is significantly better than what he was doing. Way lower volume. He seems to have read the room and realized that being a mid-range pull-up threat is just not for him because he's not good at that. Overall, his shot diet has definitely been better. I still think he's probably taken a couple too many shots per game, just because if I'm Houston, I want those shots going to other players that are not Dillon Brooks, but they did just pay him $20 million, so maybe I'm different in that perspective. But one thing that especially stood out to me when I was watching the film is that he is attacking out of the post pretty regularly, and he's been very, very effective at that to start the year. A lot of sealing his man off and getting in the right position to where he's just bigger and stronger than like a smaller guard who ends up getting him in these positions. Not to mention those guys are not typically expecting to be playing post defense. He is shooting 90% at the rim, and again, 60% from 3. That is a level of efficiency that just cannot be expected to be maintained, but that does not mean that the change in tendencies from Dillon is not extremely encouraging and something that could absolutely change the trajectory of his career and actually make this look like a good signing for the Houston Rockets. Now, one of the things that really interested me about this stretch from Dillon is it's definitely the best one that he's had in his career. He's had other stretches in the past that were really good, but none that quite held up to this. And that is definitely an encouraging sign. I know the natural thing to do, and if I was being just a pure hater here, thing to do would be just to say, hey, he played 5 games, who gives a shit? But I do think that there is enough here to be very encouraged and think that Dillon could actually end up being a very good signing for Houston. So if that does come to be, then that is indeed true. I just did not believe really in his ability to change his tendencies, because this is something that's been highlighted as a problem for Dillon for a very long time. This harkens back to when they lost to the Warriors in round 2, and Dillon was just taking a bunch of dumbass shots, and many people argue that he's the main culprit in Memphis losing that series. I do think there's a good chance they were going to lose one way or the other, but Dillon absolutely made sure to be the nail in that coffin. And yet after that, after such a bad blunder and a lot of people blaming him, he just immediately returned to the same tendencies. So I figure if that wasn't enough to make him change, then nothing would be. However, it seems like the fact that Memphis was very adamant about not bringing him back, and really there was not that much interest on him in the free agent market. Obviously Houston gave him a bunch of money, but the thing that everyone said about that signing, including me when it happened, was who else was going to give him that money. I'm fairly confident there's not a lot of teams that were going to do that. So maybe his money potentially being on the line was enough to kick him into shape. I don't know, but one way or the other, he's made changes that I did not think he was going to make, and he's been super duper efficient. And yeah, if you can be a decent volume, efficient three-point shooter, a really strong finisher at the rim, not take those bad mid-range shots, not overshoot the ball in general, and be an all NBA level defender, then yeah, no shit, Dillon Brooks has a very long future in the NBA if this maintains itself. What I'm most interested to see is how effective does he truly end up being when these numbers come down to earth a little bit. And the other thing is, do these numbers come down to earth in terms of falling all the way back to what they were, or is Dillon Brooks in reality like a 40% three-point shooter now who's just shooting 60% from three? Or is he gonna go back to being like a 31, 32, 33% three-point shooter? I would hope for his sake that that does not become the case, especially I would hope for Houston's sake. So given that it's a 5-game sample size, I'm not gonna fully go with the angle that I'm just dead wrong about these things about Dillon, but the tendency changes has me believing that I'm at least wrong about the fact that this is going to be his last contract, and I'm at least wrong about this being like a terrible contract. It still could be bad. He still could struggle to find a very solid place in the league after this contract if his numbers fall down significantly. But I think I took it to an extreme that he has proven probably not going to go. So yeah, I've been wrong about him so far. We'll see how the season goes from here. But I can't argue with these numbers. They're really good. And really, my biggest gripe with him was the mid-range pull-up. So if he's going to cut that shit out, who am I to argue? But yeah, with that said, that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.